Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 6 p.m. time for the news bulletin on Channel 2. I am Bethha, and starting off with the main headlines of the day. President Sisi meets Belgian king on the sidelines of first Egyptian-European summit. Egypt, 15 Arab and Islamic countries condemned the Knesset's approval of West Bank annexation. And Egypt continues providing aid to Gaza amid continued strikes, sudden the Strip in ceasefire breach. Welcome back, the news in full. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met Belgian King Philip at the Royal Palace in Brussels, where an official reception was held in his welcome. Souvenir photo was taken at the bureau of the king, who expressed appreciation for the president's visit as reflecting the deeply rooted historic ties binding both nations on the official and popular levels. King Philip also lauded the tangible progress in political consultations, hailing Egypt's intensified efforts for brokering a ceasefire in Gaza, being the cornerstone for regional stability and peace. President el-Sisi, meanwhile, extended gratitude for the Belgian monarch over the warm reception, cherishing his noble stances in support for the Palestinian legitimate rights being embodied in Belgian recognition of a Palestinian state. The head of state said he was looking forward to King Philip's attendance of the inaugural ceremony of the Grand Egyptian Museum, as well as to an increased Belgian investment in the national market, making use of Egypt's promising capabilities and strategic opportunities in many fields. Meanwhile, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met the European Parliament President Roberta Metsola, where he hailed the EU legislature role in enhancing the path of partnership between both sides. The president said he is looking forward to the continued coordination with the European Union on different issues of mutual concern, accelerating the implementation of a strategic partnership axis, as well as boosting Egyptian-European parliamentary dialogue, being a bridge of communication between peoples along the two banks of the Mediterranean Sea. President el-Sisi reviewed Egypt's efforts for restoring peace, security and stability in the region, most notably the state mediation efforts for ending the war in Gaza in cooperation with regional and international mediators. He pointed out to Egypt hosting of the International Sharm el-Sheikh Peace Summit, which pressed for cementing the ceasefire deal and accessing the needed aid to Gazans while providing the medical care to those wounded in the war. The top EU lawmaker hinted that the European Parliament stands in support of the two-state solution being essential to regional peace. The meeting also tackled the long-standing bilateral cooperation in the illegal migration file. In the course of his current visit to Brussels, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi addressed a press conference alongside European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and the European Union Council and Chief Antonio Costa. President el-Sisi pointed out that the first Egyptian-European summit comes at an extremely important time, saying that Egypt looks for a future based on mutual respect with Europe. The president said that the recently brokered Gaza ceasefire deal is a significant step towards a sustainable path leading to the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. On Sudan, President el-Sisi said that Egypt is willing to continue efforts for reaching a humanitarian ceasefire to alleviate the suffering of the Sudanese people. Meanwhile, he reiterated that the state's firm stance regarding Libyan stability through a comprehensive political settlement, allowing the departure of all foreign forces and the empowerment of Libyan national institutions. The head of state also highlighted Egypt's firm belief that the illegal migration phenomenon could only be solved through enhancing political and security stability, along with boosting sustainable social and economic development. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli today inaugurated a factory affiliated to OPPO Company for Elections and Smart Cell Phones production at the 10th of Ramadan city. The Prime Minister inspected the phased-in production at the factory and held a dialogue with a number of its workers, saying he believes in their ability to create and innovate in different fields and calling on them to engage in experiences relevant to such precise technical industries for a better future. The factory opening is part of an investment plan to the tune of $50 million, seeing 10 Chinese experts supervising the phased-in production process, which is being carried out by the qualified Egyptian cadres. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli today reiterated Egypt's support for all efforts by different concerned bodies aiming to promote the higher education and scientific research system. The Prime Minister made these remarks as he chaired a follow-up meeting of cooperation files between the Ministries of Higher Education and Scientific Research and Finance in the attendance of Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research Ayman Ashur and Minister of Finance Ahmed Kozak, along with senior officials at the two ministries. Madbouli lauded the hard work by concerned officials in developing education facilities, increasing their number in addition to upgrading the academic and research performance along the highest international quality standards. Egypt and 15 Arab and Islamic states, along with the Arab League and the Organization for Islamic Cooperation today, strongly condemned the Israeli Knesset approval of two draft laws aiming to enforce what termed as the Israeli sovereignty over the occupied West Bank and Israeli illegal settlements there. In a joint statement, the countries deemed the move an illegal procedure by the Israeli side, aiming to change the demographic nature and the legal status at the Palestinian territories since 1967, including at the eastern Al-Quds city. The statement cited an advisory opinion issued by the International Court of Justice, which asserted the illegality of the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories and also the invalidity of all settlement annexation moves at the West Bank. The statement pressed for the imperative need for the Israeli side to commit to international humanitarian law for easing all plans to provide humanitarian and relief aid, ensuring that Palestinian residents of occupied lands obtain their daily essential needs. The statement hailed the UN court ruling, which banned using starvation as a weapon for enforced evacuation as a means for the illegal takeover of Palestinian territories. The ruling also supported the Palestinian legitimate right in having their own state with eastern Al-Quds as its capital, annulling Israeli sovereignty claims to the old occupied city. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said that President Donald Trump would oppose Israeli occupation annexation of the occupied West Bank and would not happen a day after Israeli lawmakers launched legislation to the end. Vance spoke after U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned that moves towards annexing their territory that Palestinians see for part of an independent state could endanger plans to end the Gaza war. The U.S. State Department said that Rubio was visiting Israel to support the implementation of the Gaza plan and pave the way towards reconstruction, stable governance, and steps towards Palestinian statehood. In the framework of Egypt's relentless efforts for providing humanitarian and relief aid to Palestinians in Gaza, the Egyptian Red Crescent announced the entry of the 57th Zed al-Izza aid convoy in the war-torn Strip. The convoy is loaded with more than 2,400 tons of food supplies, some 2,000 tons of medical stuff, and also 1,800 tons of petroleum material. The convoy provided from Egypt to Gaza is part of a national mechanism to coordinate the aid delivery to Gazans to end their unprecedented humanitarian suffering. Egypt and the European Union signed a memorandum of understanding on the second phase of the macro-financial assistance mechanism to support the budget deficit and overall economy worth €4 billion. Minister of Planning, Economic Development and International Cooperation, Rania Al-Mashat, alongside with the European Commission for the Mediterranean Affairs, signed the agreement within the framework of the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership between the EU and Egypt. The financial deal focuses on cooperation in various fields, namely the education, health and water, in addition to economic and social aspects. Deputy Prime Minister for Industrial Development, Minister of Industry and Transportation, Kamil Al-Wazir, said that Egypt welcomes the expansion of Chinese industrial activities in a way to achieve sustainable development objectives and also enhance competitiveness of the national industry. Minister Kamil Al-Wazir was speaking during his meeting with the Chinese ambassador in Cairo to review allocating additional lands for Tianjin Economic Technological Development Area known as TEIDA. Chinese TEIDA projects located at the Suez Canal Economic Zone include more than 200 Chinese companies with total investments exceeding $3 billion and provide more than 70,000 direct and indirect job opportunities. Egypt's bourse closed mixed today amid sell-offs by Arab and foreign corporations and also investment funds. The market capital of listed companies added 3 billion Egyptian pounds, reaching 2.189 trillion pounds at the end of the transactions that reached 57.8 billion pounds. The benchmark index EGX 30 fell 0.32% above the 37,500 point mark. The equal weighted index EGX 70 was down 0.21% and the EGX 100 index climbed 0.14%. Dear viewers, by that we come to the end of our news bulletin. Thanks for watching. That was Basmata signing off.